Good evening, everybody. I hope you're well. Hope you've had a nice week. And
Are you ready?
I'll let
We're
you.
good. We're good. We're good. I'd like to say a happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there and grandmothers, and also a happy Heavenly Mother's Day to mothers and grandmothers too.
Tonight we are talking to Tom Warrington, author and paranormal researcher. So we will bring him on. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Good evening. Good evening,
How
everyone.
are you?
I'm
How are you
all right.
keeping?
I'm good. I'm good. And I echo what Jess said there with the Happy Mother's Day, because it's been an emotional day for me, and I suppose a lot of people across the globe, with those that are with us physically and not physically. So, yeah, Happy Mother's Day to you all. Thank you.
So, Tom, for viewers that don't know much about you, could we get you to explain a little bit about yourself?
Oh, goodness me. Well, we're only on for an hour. That might be difficult. I will condense it down to the best of my ability. It all started, and I'm sure a lot of people who know me are sick of hearing me saying this, but it all started on a fateful night back in 1992 when I watched an infamous program called GhostWatch, which was aired on the BBC. Now, funnily enough, I never knew that I would actually interview the guy that actually wrote the show, Stephen Volk, many, many years after witnessing this horrific program that scarred me for life, but also spurred me to look at the paranormal, because it was something I didn't know anything of at that young age. I didn't know nothing about ghosts or poltergeists or phantoms. It was very surreal. Watching that show really did spur me on. And luckily enough, I live in a very rural place in Lincolnshire, which has a lot of history, as does a lot of the UK. But Lincolnshire is home to the Bomber County, a very poignant place in the Second World War. We have a lot of airfields, abandoned airfields. We have a lot of RAF towers. So I'm spoilt for choice, really. There's a lot of ghost stories here in Lincolnshire. But what really started it off, when I started to research, funnily enough, when I watched GhostWatch, and for those American viewers that are watching tonight that don't know GhostWatch, you can buy it. It's a very poignant part of British history because it was aired for one night. There was a suicide involved with someone watching the programme. But like I say, I interviewed Stephen Volk. And for those viewers that don't know, the show was based around the Enfield haunting. Some people don't know this.
Okay.
So Stephen actually interviewed Maurice Grosse and Guy Leon Playfair, two big names in the paranormal field and psychical research. So the show was amazing. You know, it was mind-boggling for me because I was such a young age, but it raised so many different questions for me of things that were not yet understood. You know, there were things out there that were predominantly, yet to be discovered. So this was really exciting for me as a young child. So what happened after that, which was really weird in itself, I then received a book from my uncle about the Enfield haunting. So could put the two and two together and sandwich it there and say that was your fate there and then. And I believe that everybody has their path maybe set already in the universe. I think synchronicity has a big play in things. And, I think that book really did spark everything off for me. I started going to local haunts, as it were, excuse the pun. And we used to cycle as kids, we was 10, 11 years old. We was knocking on people's doors. Is your house haunted? We got some very peculiar looks, but then we got some really interesting stories as well. So again, it's the book started everything off, but going back to the show, GhostWatch, it sparked, that was the catalyst. That was the real thing that triggered everything off for me. And I said to Stephen Volk, the writer, I said, you've caused all this. And the wife wants your number because she needs to ask a lot of questions. It's taken up all my time, and my life and dedication to this field. And I have only him to thank for this. It's a very weird catalyst to have, but for many, I've heard that it has started off for them through this program called GhostWatch that was aired in the UK. So again, it's a TV show that predominantly started my interest, which I'm sure that you two are aware.
Exactly the same. With us, it was more Ghost Adventures when they first began. I remember watching the very first episode, and it went from there. And we got interested in all the kit they used and everything, and we thought, "Oh, this looks good." So, things I've experienced when I was younger as well. It kind of got me involved with it, and I wanted to learn a bit more. So we decided to. We started off like staying in these like haunted hotels just to begin with, and building up big pieces of kit, and it went from there. To events, and it just becomes a real hobby and a real. I love history, and science as well. The two go quite well together. It kind of started from there really with us. Since 2007, we started.
Well, I think you said about the staying at supposedly haunted hotels and stuff. That, again, for me, when I started to get a bit older, I had a fascination with haunted pubs. You both know, and the viewers know, here in the UK, we are spoilt for choice. I argue the case that there's probably no one in the land that is not far from a haunted pub or a supposedly haunted pub. We are, influxed massively with so much history here in the UK. And, I think there's a bit of a romanticism with haunted pubs and inns, because here in the UK, we have like the Black Swan in York, where you step through that door, you go back in time. It is a transportation in a physical sense. It doesn't leave much to the imagination to sit there next to the original fire, the original wooden panelling, to think about how many people have walked through that door, the emotions, the drama that goes infused with that building. There is no wonder and no doubt in my mind that, there's no question why no one experiences things that happen of a subnormal nature. And I'm writing a book 2, that is going to be covering haunted pubs. And I know a lot of authors out there have done this, but I've tried to go off the same lane as Guy Leon Playfair, who did an amazing publication back in 1983. And he did it so well, and it captivated my passion for haunted inns and pubs, because I've visited many. I've drank in a lot. I've also investigated in a lot of places like this. And, I think there's a reason why these certain locations are haunted. And I think it's because the amount of traffic, the amount of human traffic that goes through those doors. And when I say human traffic, what I mean is, like, you take a pub, okay, you can have wakes there, bar mitzvahs there, Christmas dinners there. All that human emotion has to have an impact on the surrounding area. And I'm a big believer in human energy dissipating. We emit electricity on a daily basis as human beings. So, as Einstein says, you cannot destroy energy. You can't do that. It has to dissipate somewhere. So maybe there is there is an avenue for certain buildings to be more haunted than others. And I think certain inns and pubs here in the UK have that capability, that capsule of pure energy. That it's just an echo of the past. It's so exciting to sit somewhere, and I just get goosebumps now talking about it. It's I've visited so many here in the UK, and I've had so many moments where you get transported back in time.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. You know,
I might put you on the spot now, Tom. Which pub would you say is the oldest that you've actually visited?
I must apologise. My dog Jarrett is now gone. We have a shop delivery, but ignore
Oh,
it.
that's right.
Well, I tell you what. I think the oldest pub that I've ever visited probably is the Black Swan in York.
Mm-hmm.
Which, oh God, I can't give a specific or definitive date to it, but it's one of those places where you go in, you can smell, you can feel the atmosphere. It's incredible. And actually, my friend Barry Frankish had a funny experience in that pub.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very weird experience. And he, like myself, are not psychic. We are not sensitive. Sometimes Barry is. But yeah, again, I think the Black Swan is probably the oldest place in York that I've been to. But that doesn't necessarily mean something that has to be that old has to be haunted. You know, we have nowadays that are modern day flats that have experienced, subnormal happenings. So again, that contradicts the perception of something to be old to be haunted. So the paranormal is so spontaneous. It really is. We still haven't got to that crossroads of saying, well, yes, this is the environment of which this happens, because we can't measure it. We can't.
No.
Wow.
It's true. It's like when like you're saying with all the modern buildings, but it's the land that it's on as well.
Yeah.
And like the amount of old places we go past, I'm always like, I wonder if that place is haunted. Like, it looks really old. It's got to be haunted. It's so old.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah. I mean, we drive. Sorry, Tom. I was going to say we drive past a 13th century inn every day.
Right.
Very beautiful.
It's beautiful. We stayed there several times. Again, the activity, yes, there's certainly got activity there, but they don't advertise it. They don't let people know that it's haunted or anything like that. But you can just feel it. As soon as you walk in, you are like transported back in time, like you say. Big, huge fireplaces.
Some of the bedrooms.
Oh my God.
Stunning. Yeah.
It is stunning. Really
just
stunning.
imagine.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, actually, that one. I got a few, that one and the one in Chester.
We've tried to go back there like twice, and the room we want, for some reason, something always goes wrong with it.
Yeah, we're not meant to have
it. They got double booked. It's like, how have you double booked it? Come on, we want that room.
So,
every time we try to get that room, it's just like, nope, not happening, not happening.
Which was the one in Chester then, guys? What was the?
It's called the Old King's Head.
Oh,
right. Yeah.
It's supposedly got 13 spirits.
Wow.
Paul Rowland is the main investigator there. We tend to, when we stay there, we tend to meet up with Paul quite often.
Yeah.
We generally try and stay in the most haunted room there when we visit the place, because we love Chester because it's just so old and every building is just black and white. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's one of our favorite places.
Yeah.
We do a lot there with Paul, as and when we can. Normally, without obviously this COVID situation.
Yeah.
We try and help out.
Now you talk about Chester, I think I visited Stanley Palace.
Oh yeah,
we've
heard of that.
There.
We haven't been there.
That is a very surreal place. I don't know whether they still conduct ghost hunts there, but the bad part about that building is because it's such on a busy road, You have to equate for all the traffic. It's very hard to investigate a location like that because you cannot proof sound anything. But I recommend you go. It's a very surreal place, very old as well.
We'll have a look at that when we're next down that way.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think so. Yeah.
There's so many in Chester that we want to do. Like, I think, is it the Bull?
Ball and Stirrup.
The Bull and Stirrup, that's the one.
One in Chester. That one's
That'll
another
be a nice
good one
to go to.
Apparently, we've not been in there. But
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I say allegedly because obviously, you know, so many people say different things with how many they reckon's in like the Old King's Head. I mean, hasn't actually been documented. It's just some suggested, you know, there's like 13 spirits.
Yeah.
There's definitely something going on in there. But yeah, I mean, as for definitive proof, it's, you know, the paranormal, you know, but they do like to advertise it.
Right.
Which again could be from a business point of view. Maybe they want to pull people in.
It's definitely worth going.
Or yeah,
Definitely.
if you're into that kind of thing, it's a place to definitely go to. I was going to ask you, Tom, how is your paranormal research going at the moment? Obviously, with the COVID situation and
yeah, well, with COVID, obviously it's extremely difficult now.
yeah.
I've actually just taken on, funny you should say, I can't say too much, but I've taken on a private case. Now, it's very local to me, literally 10 minutes from me. There's a set of buildings that are having extreme apparent activity. It's an elderly building built very early on into the 1600s. They're having proclaimed doors slamming in their faces. They're having objects moved. And it actually came off the back of my stepbrother, who was actually cleaning some carpets for one of the elderly ladies there, who said, my house is haunted. And he said jokingly, well, I've got just the person for you to talk to. And obviously we exchanged numbers. And yeah, so that's on at the minute. I'm looking into that. Obviously, I've not been into the property due to COVID. Conducted several telephone interviews already, which sound promising. I've never been one for private cases because they are a bit dangerous. Not for the fact of the phenomena, but because of people. You know, if you're stepping into someone's house, it's a very dangerous situation to be in, especially these teams that investigate homes with children. And I know I've done it in the past, and I hold my hands up, and I never do it again with children who are involved in a case, because you're opening yourself up to a lot of damage if the people who are inviting you there have other implications, as it were. So I tend to stay away from private cases, but at the minute I'm concentrating on that. And also the website I've nearly finished finally. People have been asking me for the website, so that's going to be happening very, very soon. So I've been really busy, actually.
Good. Good to hear. Yeah, I was going to say, do you think the activity ramps up due to the COVID situation, due to obviously no one being able to go out and investigate? Do you think it's making the activity kick off a lot more in people's lives?
I think it has, because people are solely at home or residing wherever they are more often than they should be, or what they were doing. So maybe people are noticing more things happening around them. I think, you know, with this COVID thing, I think it's caused a humongous stress capacity on people's mentality as well. Everything is heightened. We're all emotional. We all want to see everybody again, and you know, I think it probably has caused maybe a bit of a catalyst in supposedly places, you know, where that phantom's not been seen for 20 years, has now been seen a bit more regular, is a possibility of the fact that the mentality of people, when they're witnessing something paranormal, what is their mental state? You know,
Yeah.
It could be, there could be a certain mental state that people are observing or more susceptible to observe a ghost. So it may be, you may be right. It may be a possibility that things are happening more because more people are spending time at home, and there is that energy, that pent up frustration and emotion that is causing things to happen, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that
I
does
mean, I'm a believer in that. I do think that places need time to recover, especially like big places when you do things like the prisons, things like that, on events and things, because event teams are in there week in, week out. The place doesn't get a chance to rebuild its energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. And that when we all get back out there, I think it will. I think a lot of them will be rushing towards us to try and communicate with us. I'm hoping anyway. Fingers crossed.
So going back to when your first paranormal journey started, you did, was it Havon Priory in Sleaford?
Havon, yeah.
How was that?
Well, I actually, right at the start of the show, I mentioned myself and friends banging on people's doors, asking if your house is haunted as a young kid. Havon, one of the places that we frequently visited, it was about a 20-minute bike ride from the village of Heckington. And I still visit that place today and is featured in my book because I feel that it was a beacon for me. I think things happen for a reason. I know we spoke about things happening, and that place for me is magical. It's a very mysterious place. There's a lot of history to it. There's a lot of stories to it, and there's a lot of ghost stories to it. And to this day, it's nice to hear that people, or not nice to hear for people experiencing phantoms. And a very funny story, and I've only just been allowed to say this. When I wrote the book, as I mentioned, I featured Havon Priory. Now, the thing that happens there, the most frequent that I've heard and interviewed, is a period horse and carriage. Now, predominantly it used to start over the bridge side there, but it's also been seen on the long straight road coming away from the Priory. Now, I got collared by one of my colleagues at work, a lady, I'm not going to mention her name because she did say not to mention her name, who bought the book and read the part of Havon Priory. Now, she pulled me to the side and said, I can't thank you enough. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, I've witnessed what you have spoken about in your book. And I said, oh my goodness me, this is great. Because I've only spoken to 2 people who have actually witnessed the horse and carriage. And she said that she drove, she was driving actually away from the Priory to her home. And coming towards her was a horse and carriage. And it was a period horse and carriage because she noticed the top hat, the whip, all of that. And it didn't really twig to her what was really happening until it went past her. The driver acknowledged her like that of the hat. And then when she looked back in her rear view mirror, there was nothing there. Now, that's happened quite frequently, but more frequently enough, there is a lot of sound. Audio happens across Havon. It's more audio than a visualization of an apparition. But for me to hear someone that I know and work with come up to me and say, I've read your book, and they're not into the paranormal, they weren't into the paranormal, they bought it because I said to them, look, anyone could pick up this book and you know, you can do a bit more digging for yourself. And for her to say she experienced what I've read up about and interviewed people about was amazing. You know, I thought this was incredible, you know.
Icing on the cake, isn't it?
Well, and I think for her, because she's never spoken to anyone about it, it was closure for her. And I think that's quite important when we're dealing with this sort of scenario, because there's a lot of people out there that are very frightened of discussing such things.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not a taboo subject now. I wouldn't say that, because it's still it's very out there now with all these radio shows and magazines and publications. It's out there, but there's still a lot of people to this day have experienced things that they don't really want to share, because they feel they might get alienated, or they might feel you know that it's not right. Yeah, so
there definitely is a stigma right there.
Yeah.
And you got to be a bit careful who you talk to about it as well, I've noticed. You
have like, there's a select few that you know you can talk to about it, and then there's that other lot that are like, no, they're not going to be bothered. They ain't going to listen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You've also done the Temple Brewer, haven't you? Is it?
Oh my goodness me, I could talk all about that.
I was going to ask you about your evidence that you've caught there.
And your experiences.
To be honest, I mean, I have only had a handful of experiences through the many years that I have investigated. It's either I'm doing something wrong or others are doing something right. I don't know. But Temple Brewer is it's just an amazing place. If you go there, and it is open to the public, I do recommend people go. It's all linked to the Knights Templar, which is featured in my book. I've experienced, I just feel every time I go there, I think it's exactly the same place like Havon Priory, where I feel like I'm a bit connected to. It's like a place I keep getting drawn to. I'm not sensitive. I don't know what it is. I just feel like I need to go. And hence why it's a big feature in my book. And I've also done quite a few talks at conventions and online conventions about the Ruskington Horror, which I believe is connected to Temple's Brewer, because there are so many accounts, and still people to this day are contacting me that on the A15 they are experiencing phenomena of apparitions jumping out in front of cars, phantom hitchhikers. There is a lot connected to Temple's Brewer, which is literally just off the A15. I've experienced really weird compass readings, and I know Barry Frankish will vouch for this. We pride ourselves on back to basics investigating. I have a bit more tech than Barry, I must admit. He is really basic with what he does, but I predominantly use myself as a tool, excuse the pun, because our senses and our observations are everything. You know, you cannot have that experience without that human element there. And I always say, does the haunting happen without that human element there? Of which there are some arguments out there that I've had with researchers that it does happen without the human element. But I think, you know, you have to be that person observing that phenomena to make that account. You know, without that person, you won't hear about the story. So I personally believe that there has to be that human conduit, that observation, that human element to have that experience. It has to be.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes, like if you're in a group, like you could have no activity whatsoever, but you can go, right, I'm going to leave you here on your own. And, you know, it could all kick off with just that one person.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting me. You've raised a very good point. Is that what makes that one person witness something? How is it that? What is that scenario? And I've written about this, about the ghostly scenario, where it comes with factors of what the time is, the temperature, the state of mind of the person. There has to be, I'm thinking scientifically here, there has to be elements that be in place for that person to witness what we call a ghost. So what is that?
it could be anything, couldn't it? It could be from like like mindset. It could be fear. Yeah. It could be the fact that they're a non-believer and the spirit knows, and they're like, haha, this is my chance. Yeah. Or or maybe they may have abilities and they might sense it more and pick up more.
Yeah.
So on that road, is there a crossroads? Yes. They say, don't they, on the crossroads, sometimes the energy in crossroads, due to the different directions, that can actually cause paranormal activity.
Well, there's actually, I've been speaking to some very in-depth researchers who are not known to the field, actually, who study ley lines.
Right.
This was completely new to me. I interviewed a guy who was on This Morning TV back in the early 90s, who started the Ruskington horror media story, witnessed an apparition. And I've interviewed the guy, and from that, he put me in touch with some others who researched the same story. But ley lines were totally new to me. I've heard of them. Don't get me wrong, and people say they're conduits or highways to the spirits. But it's very interesting to learn that Temple Brewer is actually sat on a crossroads of ley lines. Not only that, there is so much I could show you. And actually, I'm going to do a presentation on my public page in the upcoming months of the Ruskington Horror, because there's a lot of people that missed out on when I did it on the Haunted Antiques Research Centre page that want to hear it, because it is a very interesting factor that I think we're a bit misguided in what we research nowadays. It's all about the technology, or it seems to me all about, it's all technological focused. And I think we have to go back to our roots a bit with regards to the Harry Price era and things like that, because I think we have the blinkers on at the minute as investigators. I think we're not realising the bigger picture, as it were, because through my research, I've discovered a humongous amount of information that I would never have dreamed of even looking at. And it actually it's a bit of a puzzle. So when you're researching, you need to grasp at these bits of puzzles. Once you start putting these together, you will find this picture. And through the Ruskington horror story, I have found the bigger picture. And the Temple Brewer Preceptory is part of that big puzzle. But back to your question with crossroads, yes, definitely. There's definitely something there.
William has asked a question. On an investigation, Tom, do you wear any metal jewellery?
Apart from my wedding band, that is it. I try not to take much, actually, for investigating. Notepad and pen is probably the most important part of my arsenal. And a watch, and the thing is that me and Barry talk about quite often is the laziness with investigators, or a majority of investigators today, is that they're a bit lazy with regards to their research and their patience. And spontaneous cases are spontaneous. They're not a continuous cycle of something that we can record. They happen, they go. That's it. They happen, they go. So you have to be on the ball with regards to investigating, and you have to be really, really, really patient. That is so fundamentally the most important part of being a paranormal investigator, is being
definitely. The amount of footage and things we've been through in the past.
hours worth of
hours and
CCTV.
hours CCTV footage, because it's just us. So
Yeah.
we end up going through all hour by hour.
You literally need matchsticks in
Yeah,
your eyes.
the amount of times we've been in prison because
A
we're
lot
near
of
Chepton Prison. Been going in there about 3 years, and it's on and off. Just keep going back and back and back, trying to get even more answers. But you'll find that it's few and far between. Some days you go in and you get absolutely nothing.
Sit on cold floors for hours.
You sit there for hours and hours and hours. It's freezing cold. But that's just part and parcel of what we do. As an investigator, that's what you realise you have to do sometimes. And things don't happen like they do on TV.
Oh.
Definitely not.
William also said, as you study alchemy, he recommends copper as an energy conductor.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, this is something new with the kind of ley line energy perspective. It's something new to me. I'm still learning with regards to how I want to conduct my methodology with investigating. Predominantly, I'll always work with temperature because that's something tangible that I can record, and it's something predominantly found within hauntings. So that's something that I've latched onto, and I'm not going to take total credit for it because obviously there's great investigators like Steve Parsons from Parascience and Alan Winsmith who are at the forefront of investigating with regards to temperature and everything like that.
Yeah, and it's like when you get those sudden spikes in temperature, gotta make sure you get them down quickly, record them.
I find it's always important as well with the EMF readings. Get your EMF readings first. Get your baseline test, and then you've got something to work on to see if there's any fluctuations in the change. Every time you go back, things like that. And it's a lot of people just go in with Chepton thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to see something tonight. This is going to happen tonight, and they're thinking it may do, it may not. Chances are it probably won't.
Anyway, you go, isn't it?
It's the same anyway you go on an investigation. You are hoping that it will.
Yeah.
It's a watch and wait game, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, you spent some time at Calvert and Hatch. How was that? A place we've always wanted to go.
It actually wasn't. It wasn't a place I wanted to go at all. It all came through. I wrote an article for Supernatural magazine, many moons ago, and somebody actually wrote back to me and saying that what you should do is spend time alone in a supposedly haunted place, which I never had. Well, I have had done, but I've done it with other people. So to do it on my own was a bit of a game changer. So somebody suggested Calvert and Hatch. I've never heard of Calvert and Hatch nuclear bunker, but when I started to research the place, I thought this might actually be a pretty cool place to do a lone night, or how many hours it was. It was 24 hours alone. And when I got there, I thought, oh my God. What have I done? It's a massive place. It's a labyrinth of rooms underground. Well, it's all predominantly underground, as you probably know.
I've seen some of your pictures of the maps.
Oh goodness me! Honestly, it's I tell you what, it's a great place to go in the day. The guy who owns it does tours. And it's a fantastic place. A lot of history as well. But there's only one recorded death there. So I was a bit dubious as to whether a place like that was apparently haunted. But most haunted went there, so it must be. I know a lot of groups who went there and experienced a lot of things, and I've seen some footage and some imagery that would suggest that possibly, there may be something going on there. But yeah, that was really weird. I personally wouldn't recommend spending 24 hours alone down there, because I was alone with myself, so that's dangerous enough in itself, you know. But what was dangerous was the amount of stairs and rooms and thick doors, blast doors that were down there. And I thought, Christ, if something happened to you,
Yeah, you're locked in there for life.
So yeah, that I don't know whether it was stupidity or I don't know what it was, but I raised a lot of money for cancer research. So that was all.
Well, that's the main thing. That's the main thing.
I'm actually in the process of doing another charity event.
Okay.
Now, I promised people that I'd do another loan 24 hours, but I'm not going to do that this time. What I'm going to do, and I'm in talks with some local locations, I'm going to do a public event. I'm going to have guest speakers, and I'm going to have several teams joining me with regards to a location that are not going to be announced just yet. Obviously, with COVID, they're all and ahhing whether to do it. But yeah, it's going to be a public event. It's going to be a bit of a mini convention, maybe.
Good idea.
We get some few guest speakers on, and we'll get a public ghost hunt as well on the latter of that as well. So that's something that I'm in the talks with some locations. So yeah, so Kelvin Hatch was. I wouldn't do it again. I would not do it again.
Scarred you for life.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. Those, like you say, those thick metal doors.
Yeah.
If one of them closes and you ain't getting that open.
We done a night on an event in Drakelow Tunnels.
Right.
And the next morning they couldn't open the door.
It was a bit sticky.
The door was stuck, and it literally took them like 20 minutes to get it open. And that was with the key.
They were worrying. They were even getting like the guests, like, try and open it.
Yeah, because
like,
you don't get no phone signal, no nothing down there. So you are literally on your own down there, and no one would know you're even in there, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
But
those kind of doors are scary.
Location to be missed, Drakelow.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Shame about that one.
Yeah. Yeah, you've also done some work with Barry Frankish. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, me and Barry have actually only met probably 2 or 3 times in the flesh, which is very surreal for a lot of people who know the Pure Paranormal Radio Show, which lasted for 4 years.
Wow.
And you know, it actually upsets me talking about it a bit, because I know he was really gutted about it, and I was too. I ended the show because I don't know, you know, when you're in life where you feel that things have to come to an end, you know, those good things do have to come to a close.
Yeah.
And I had so much going on. Work was really difficult at the time. And, you know, it did take a lot of, you guys know with your show, it takes a lot of time and energy to do these sort of shows.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, me and Barry was getting together the night before the show, went live, collating the questions for the guest, researching the guest. It was a lot of time and energy. I absolutely adored that show, and it will always be with me, because Barry, I met Barry through it. You know, he was a guest, he was probably the 6th or 7th guest on the show. And then I asked him to be a co-host on it, and he was a co-host for me for about 3.5 years on the show. And we met some amazing people. We really did. We won a award for the radio show in 2017 at a convention called Parafest. We got the Radio Show of the Year, and that was only just over a year old doing it. It was an incredible journey. We were guest speakers at places, at conventions. We were getting invited left, right and centre, everywhere through the show. So we have a lot to thank through this show. And yeah, it really upsets me to talk about, because I wish I was still doing it. But unfortunately, my time is spent elsewhere. I want to spend more time with the family. I have been involved with the paranormal for 20 years, and you know, it's put a strain on my wife and the kids. because I've written books, I've done talks all over the country. It takes a lot of your time, you know, for a hobby. It is a hobby.
It is a hobby, yeah.
And, you know, people don't realise how much time goes into certain aspects of what I do. And the radio show was a massive part of my life. And I thought it was time that we finished it. And it was a very emotional last show. And it's for people that do want to catch up on all 4 years, you can go to mixcloud.com and type in the Pure Paranormal Radio Show. And we've had some amazing guests. We've had Dr. Kieran O'Keefe, Richard Felix. We've had paranormal groups around the globe in Europe. And that's what the show was all about. It wasn't about these people who are very well known. It was about sharing people's experiences and methodology, more importantly, how people worked. You know, that's what we was interested in, is how people conducted themselves on events, on private investigations. You know, we was having people that were not known to the field, that, you know, had just started up in their group, very excited, bubbly people, and then sharing their kind of ideology of what they were doing, that was the main purpose of the show. And it was fantastic. I've met so many good friends, and I'm still talking to now. I'm getting emotional talking about it. It's been an incredible journey with that show, but unfortunately it had to come to the end.
Yeah.
And it's a memory that you'll always hold.
That's right.
And, you know, it'll never change.
Yeah.
I mean, you do meet some lovely people in the paranormal field as well. We've met so many people through this. So many nice people, aren't we, along the way?
People that help you, and
you're never alone, and you're always learning as well. It's one of those subjects, isn't it, that you just keep learning every day, new things.
The thing is, like, we all do the same, but everyone has different techniques.
Yeah.
And those techniques, like, you could do one thing one way, someone could do it the same thing completely different, but bring those together and it works.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, is you learn.
Spot on. And do you know what? There's not enough of this. There's not enough. I mean, I remember back in the 90s when we used to go out, and, you know, there was no internet for one. It's totally different now. And I know, and I keep banging on about social media, it has had a damning effect on the paranormal. It has its benefits, you know, but I think we've seen the rise of a lot of individuals that are tarring others that are doing great work like yourselves and people watching tonight, that it just paints us in a really bad brush and such a bad tone. But again, you know, it's all about sharing the knowledge, and I keep banging on about it. And there's not enough of that, and especially on I've never got this, but on public events, I've always wanted to see more of, you know, more of an introduction at the start, more of introducing the team, more of you know, explaining the technology being used and the methods that are being used in practice, because there's a lot of people out there that are just coming into the field, and, you know, they don't know where to go, or they're just Googling ghost hunts in the local area. And unfortunately, there's bad eggs out there. And I think the good out there, the good individuals out there need to do more. They need to do more expressing what we do and how passionate we are. And what I've seen is beneficial is shows like this that you're doing tonight. There's some amazing people that are doing things, and it's great to see. But again, there are people that are doing it for the wrong reasons, and unfortunately are getting more limelight. This is what I can't comprehend. Why are they getting more limelight for those people that are dedicating their lives and researching and investigating, you know, to a level that we should expect to see? It's just so frustrating. Really is frustrating.
No, 100% agree. And obviously, my question I was going to ask you, which we kind of touched on it anyway, was what is your preferred way of investigating? Like, how do you do it?
So I am very but Harry says I'm not that basic because I do have my tech. When I say tech, it's hard drive camcorders. I think you cannot go anywhere without recording. You know, you have to record it.
Backup.
So for him, that is probably too tech-minded, where he does like his photography. But I am all about temperature. I have gadgets that monitor and record temperature fluctuations in like Kelvin Hatch, like you mentioned. I'm lucky enough to actually have my hands on several devices that recorded in the majority of part of the location, and what that gave me an advantage of coming home and then putting all that data in. I could plot every room in a graph, so I could literally see in room A, room B, room C, all the fluctuations of temperature. So if I had a sensation in a room that I was writing down, then I could refer back to my temperature loggers that would galvanize that suggestion of, yes, you did, you felt a temperature increase or a decrease, you know. But I'm all about temperature. That is my sole direction, because if we look at historic cases and today's cases, temperature has an underlying precognition of it's always happening. There's always somebody suggesting that they've had that chill, that they've had that increase in temperature, or, you know, it's something tangible that we can record. So we have some great technology out there, some devices. Temperature loggers are my favorite thing. They are fantastic. Elitech temperature loggers, you can buy them for probably about £30. They come like a temperature pen like that. You press the button and it measures the temperature until you stop record. These things are fantastic because what you can do, you can mark them up, which is what I've done. You can designate area. So you can put temperature logger A in the bedroom, or temperature logger B in the children's playroom, or whatever you want to do. And then what enables you to do is that you can actually look at a graph. You know, this is something tangible. You know, this is a scientific instrument that's giving you the ability to measure something that we can look at and say, yes, something has happened here. You know, there's been a decrease of 4 degrees, which is a bit interesting, where it's all closed off. So yeah, back to the investigating. It's all about the temperature for me, really.
And if you go to that location, like I said, with the temperature, if you go to that location quite often, and if you're recording it, especially like, say, you know, temperature A in bedroom, whichever one, like, you can record a difference. Like, you could have a temperature increase or decrease, say 2 o'clock every morning, same time.
Exactly.
And then you can go back and be like, okay, so we know this is happening this time, every time.
Yeah, because in the paranormal as well, temperatures go up as well as down, don't they? A lot of people say they go down, they feel cold, but it can also go the opposite way as well.
Yeah.
It can actually come over quite hot.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is fluctuations.
Everyone's familiar, like yourselves, with temperature. You know, we know as a human being where we feel we're such a great tool. You know, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are missing the whole point, where they're using too much technology, where you are that tech. You are the best tech ever. You know? And all this technology is doing is galvanizing your experience. So when I'm measuring temperature and I feel that temperature, if that temperature logger is suggesting to me, yes, you experienced something there, then yes, I can say, yes, that's that. You know,
you've got that backup, haven't you?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, we do use quite a bit of kit.
We're not going to lie, we do like our kit, but at the same time, we do
like our own sensors. I've
got quite a skeptical side about me as well. I'm quite annoyed. I annoy myself sometimes, because even though like a piece of kit's going off, I'm like, could it have been such and such? Could it have been, could it be the battery? Could it be, I'd still question it, even though we have the technology in front of us. I'd still question it. Whereas a lot of people would jump to the conclusion and say, no, that was definitely paranormal, or it just helps validate and back up as you are investigating. That's the pure reason we do it.
I like it when two pieces of kit go together, two different pieces.
Yeah, we've had the Ovilus 3 and the Alice box both come out with the same thing at the same time, which is interesting because it's two different pieces of kit.
So the Alice box
and works the same kind of way, word generating, but how the two can come up with the same word at the same time, the chances of it are quite slim.
I mean, I can understand them both saying the same word, maybe different times, but same time.
That's when it becomes very interesting. And like we do like the EVP recorder. That seems to be our go-to piece of kit.
Always have that
a lot of the stuff we have. Definitely.
I think the one I've done recently, which was at 30 East Drive when we had a break from lockdown, we went up with Jane Harris and Barry John and the BBC, and that was interesting because I've never done like a sensory experiment, and Jane wanted to do it, and she was like, "Right, we need some guinea pigs." I was like, "Okay, I'll try this one." And I was amazed by it. Like, I had the foam earplugs in, set of noise cancelling headphones, and a blindfold. I literally couldn't see a thing, couldn't hear anything. And I just remember, like, I know your senses are heightened anyway, but I remember feeling something to the left side of me. And I was like looking around, well, I couldn't see nothing, but I'm looking around like, there's someone there. I'm sure there's somebody there. And I was in the middle of the room, so nobody was right around me. And like, it's hard to explain it, but even though it was pitch black, I could still see like black movement in front of me. Which was really weird.
And the odd thing was, Jane was whispering it very, very quietly, so that Jess couldn't even pick up on it. That could the spirit actually touch her left arm? And with that, Jess slowly starts doing that with her arm. She could sense somebody actually touching her.
Weird.
It was a bizarre experiment, and it's one that we've been trying at home as well with the headphones. And I've got to say, some of the I'm calling out different questions because we believe our house is haunted to a certain degree, and I am getting back responses, from Jess. But it's not physically possible because she's got the noise cancelling headphones on, she's got the earplugs in, she cannot even hear what I'm saying. Yet I'm logging all the answers. It is absolutely incredible.
Wow.
It's a great thing to try.
He's like, how do you do these answers? I'm like, I don't know.
They just come to you.
A word just comes in my head. Like, I can't explain it. Like, it's just like a thought pops in your head. I better say that. But yeah, it's really weird. But yeah, I wouldn't mind carrying on using that on investigations.
Could come in handy.
Because for your senses and stuff, I think it kind of helps using your body as a tool.
Definitely.
Now, you have a book, don't you? Can you tell people whereabouts they could actually buy your book from and a bit of insight about it?
So Looking for Ghost Secret of Truth is still available on Amazon. And it's a book for everyone. It's a book for those that are into the paranormal, not into the paranormal, for those that want to kind of seek the truth, really, because that's predominantly my main conquest, is to learn the truth, as we all want to do. It's I'm quite proud of it. It's a book that anyone can pick up, whether you're really serious into it. Like I say, you're not that kind of interested, but you have that kind of little spark there. But it's a great book, and I think hopefully book 2 will galvanise some of the theories that I've put in the first book.
I must say, it's a fantastic read. I'm not just saying that because we're live. It actually is a fantastic. I loved it from start to finish. I could see myself in everything you were writing. It was incredible.
I really appreciate your comments there. Thank you.
It's good to have two sides, you know, to back up. Don't just jump to the conclusion of, oh, it was paranormal, it was a ghost, or you know, as much as, you know, we're all investigating it and want to believe these things, but you don't.
You gotta check your surroundings.
Yeah, you gotta have a bit of sense of. You got to be a bit sensible at times. There's, you know, when the door slams, could that have been wind? You have to rule out all the obvious things, and that's what I'm like on investigations. I tend to annoy myself that way, but it's just, you're bound to question yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Well, I think that's time. Now it's gone to the hour already.
Very quick.
That has flown by.
Unbelievable.
Thank you very much for having me on.
No problem at all.
I really appreciate your time, guys, and it's been lovely speaking with you. And obviously, when lockdown's finish, I'd love to kind of meet up. And
yeah, that would be fantastic. Fantastic. I'd love to do that.
Maybe we could go to Calvin and Hatch.
Yeah, well, that
would show us Calvin and Hatch.
Temple Brewer.
Or Temple Brewer.
Thanks everyone for watching.
If you hold fire in the background, we'll catch up with you before we go. And yeah, thank you for your time as well.
Thank you very much, Tom.
No worries.
All right. Speak to you in a minute.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys. Thank you all for watching. Yeah, next up is the Power Exchange with guest Brian Cano at 11 o'clock. So make sure you tune in for that one. Yeah, thank you for watching and hope you all have a lovely rest evening. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.
See you soon.
See you soon.